from Jimmy or from you before you go.
And welcome back to another episode of Highly Unoffended. How we doing, mi gente? Ramon, how you doing today, kid?
Doing good.
All right, fabulous. We got a great run today for you, boys and girls. Hopefully, your mama lets you leave the house. Let's just stay out past the street lights because we staying out late tonight. White boy Tim, how we doing?
I'm pointing.
Fantastic. All right, so we're gonna take a little ride tonight. We're gonna kick some. We're gonna take a ride down the Berlin Turnpike tonight. Many of us frequent the Berlin Turnpike for its eateries. Maybe some of us got some old high school stories at the hotels. We drive down it all the time. Some of us hot rodded with old cars down it. The Berlin Turnpike.
I hear they do hourly rentals. I hear.
Rumor has it alleged. Berlin Turnpike was built in 1909. 12 miles connecting New Haven County to Harford County, originally for the courthouses. I'm like, damn, criminal activity was that bad. But right now we're gonna take a ride on the darker side, and the color girls go do. But we're here today. This evening we're here with author, speaker, human rights activist Raymond Bouchard, who wrote a book called The Berlin Turnpike. True story. So at this time, I wanted Raymond, thank you for coming into us today.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for having the guts to tackle this topic.
No, you know what I mean. We're trying, and we're flattered that we're all flattered that you made the voyage down today and come and hang out. I was made aware of your book about 2000, and it was brought home, thrown on the coffee table, and I'm looking at it, and I start like, Berlin Turnpike. I'm like, okay, what's this about? And
that was my reaction when I saw it on your coffee table. Like, what's this about?
Everybody says about all the books on my coffee table. Not good.
It was the only one that wasn't weird.
Or pop-up.
It's actually pretty weird, yeah. There's not many pictures of it, so.
I was going to say, I'm surprised Jimmy got through it. Not many pictures.
Yeah, not many pictures, but no. But where are you from originally, Raymond?
Weathersfield, Connecticut. Grew up there, born and raised.
The Cove, very nice.
The Cove, yeah. We used to go down there and watch the submarine races with our dates during high school.
Fantastic. All right, it's gonna be all right. I like this. So born school, everything, all Weathersfield.
Yeah, pretty much. Traveled all over, but it always seemed to come back to Connecticut. But, when I heard about this, so we really haven't even mentioned what the book's about. The full title of the book is The Berlin Turnpike, A True Story of Human Trafficking in Connecticut. And not many people are aware that, there's a law that was passed by the federal government in 2000 called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act.
Correct.
And it was really a really great law. It replaced what we used to call the Mann Act, which was a really old law from like 1909, 1910. And that law was terrible.
Not the Mann Act you're thinking, Jimmy.
Yeah, different one. So that law was to address, there was sort of a human trafficking scare back then. And they passed this law, but man, the federal government used it for some really bad, really racial reasons. It was terrible. So in 2000s, they realized they had to do something to address this issue. And the first trial in a courtroom to take place under this Trafficking Victims Protection Act took place in Hartford, Connecticut. About a pimp, a trafficker. A pimp is a human trafficker. And it was an 8-day trial, but he had about 100 girls over time in his stable.
Wow.
That he worked on the Side Highway and on the Berlin Turnpike.
Wow.
His only course of advertising was the Hartford Advocate, if you remember that newspaper.
Oh,
yeah. The Hartford Advocate used to open up those classified ads in the back.
On the back, yeah. It was always
Subway and read it. It was always that Subway.
It was always escort ads, spa ads, strip joint ads, and all that sort of stuff.
So I heard.
And so I went after them for years. I wrote about that extensively in the book. The Hartford Advocate was mentioned, like 60 times in this trial. This guy, Dennis Paris, who ran this trafficking ring, this prostitution ring in and around Hartford. And
now, what year is this?
So the trial was in 2007, and
because I don't think really many people had seen any of this because I think the first exposure mainstream was The Point,
With the point.
HBO special, Hud's Point,
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
right?
We used to- we-
Because first The Point came out,
Yeah,
and then the West Coast version, Pimps Up, Hose Down, came, right?
Remember that?
that was bad. Oh my
Right?
God.
Because like I said, the first, and I think it was late '90s when The Point came out, and I'm
Yeah.
from the Bronx, and then they were showing all the Hud's Point and everything going on at night, and then then a couple of years later they did the West Coast, like I said.
We used to do rescue work at the point all the time. Back in about 10 years ago. And in fact, it was in 07 or 08 that I was doing a ride along with NYPD. And, it was like 2 a.m. and we're right down there where it all happens. The girls were still walking the streets and everything. And I saw this little girl, blonde girl. Yeah, I could say little girl. She was, she wasn't a little girl. She was like in her early 20s, but she looked young. And she disappeared. We turned around and she's gone. The only thing sitting there is an 18-wheeler truck. So I said, guys, she's in that truck. And they let me video the whole thing. If you go to YouTube and look up the Berlin Turnpike and Snow Bunny, you'll see the original video that I posted back then. It's got like 1.5 million views on it. Damn. But I mean, this girl's, and I use that video for training when I do training with law enforcement, because the cops that night, literally when they interviewed her and pulled her out of the truck, they did everything wrong. She was clearly a trafficking victim, clearly didn't want to be doing what she was doing. And they tried to flip her and tried to get her to, just informing all this sort of stuff. And I was working with some people that were trained in response and trained to help victims. And they said, listen, we can get you out tonight. We can help you. And she's like, no, I just got to turn a trick. I got to get some drugs. I got to go home because they're waiting for me. I got to get drugs to people I'm living with. And boom, she walks out into the night, never saw her for 13 years. At the end of 2020, I get a message on Facebook saying, I'm Snow Bunny. So I went down to New York, talked to her again. So if you look at these 2 videos on YouTube, you'll see one that's taken in 2007.
We'll be checking it out later for sure.
And then it goes 13 years later, and there she is with her child. It's wow. Every once in a while you get a win in this, but it's really, really rare. Wow. But anyway, so this trial, took place in 2007. First one to take place in a courtroom. Nobody knew how to investigate it. Nobody knew how to prosecute it. Judges didn't know what to do. But I realized that in reading the 1,500-page transcript of this trial, that it really told the story of how trafficking works in America. I mean, everything was like it. So I wrote this based on that trial, but it also goes into the entire history of trafficking in the U.S., not just now, but what I discovered in the research was that John D. Rockefeller, commissioned a report in 1912 called Commercialized Prostitution in New York City. And it was like the last good study done on the subject. And I read that whole thing. I think I got the only copy. I found it somewhere at an old bookstore and read it and thought, oh my God, nothing has changed. They do it exactly the same, from the way the pimps recruit to the way they put customers out, everything except the internet.
You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly it. So I realized, this guy in this trial, Dennis Paris, who's still in prison. Spoiler alert, but that's no surprise. He was operating on motels on the Berlin Turnpike, the Sidestein Highway. He was in the Hartford Advocate. I mean, he was really localized, but he was trading girls back and forth with guys in New Haven. He was bringing girls to Rhode Island because at the time, until 2010, people don't know this, indoor prostitution in Rhode Island was not illegal. It wasn't legal. But
you said indoor?
Indoor. So you could every strip joint at that point in Providence and Rhode Island was a brothel. Every one of them. But you could be running girls out of your condo or homes, and people did. In fact, what kind of finally blew it for people back then, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but these guys were going to start a brothel boat in Narragansett Bay off of Newport. And it wouldn't have been illegal, but people just freaked and they passed a law.
Not in Newport. Not in my yard.
Not with certain last names, owning real estate in that side of the world.
Well, that's the thing. Newport, up until they built the bridge and the Navy base went out of there in like the early 70s, Newport was terrible. I mean, there was tattoo parlors and strip joints and prostitutes. It was bad.
They don't want that back.
Like most port cities, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
very much so. Newport had been like that for 200 years. So anyway, having grown up here, like you're right, we used to cruise the Berlin Turnpike when we were kids. And I don't know if you remember this, but they had where Home Depot is now. was an outdoor movie, drive-in theater,
Mhm.
but it was an X-rated drive-in theater.
Wow, I don't
So
remember that.
they had fences around it. You really couldn't see.
I remember the one at the top by the McDonald's, the Hartford drive-in.
That was
You know,
that was just closed like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That was up for a long time.
See, I remember those drive-ins because at the time I used to live in New Haven.
Yeah,
My
drive
grandparents lived here, and there was no Route 9. So you came up 91, and then you got off there, and then it was back road from there. So you
Can't
had
get
to
there
hop-
from here, boy.
So you had to hop on the Berlin Turnpike. So we used to come up, and I remember all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, my dad had a business
This
there.
is back in the 70s.
Yeah, my dad had like an auto repair shop in Weathersfield on the Berlin Turnpike, and opened it in the early 60s. But then Route 91 opened up in 1967, and the traffic on the Berlin Turnpike dropped overnight by 80%.
Damn.
All the businesses, including my dad's, died. It was like
Whoa,
that.
that's-
just died.
That's
And
an
that's
ugly
when it
number.
really started to go downhill, because the Berlin Turnpike at one point after the war, it was kind of like a Vegas of Connecticut. There were
Yeah.
shows and orchestras,
Like
and
a
all
Route
sorts of-
66.
Yeah, it was an entertainment kind of mecca. You had a burlesque, but you had orchestras and reputable stuff.
I remember an old, like a Chinese restaurant, and it was actually on the highway.
that's
It looked like a
right.
pagoda. You can see
Yeah.
it on the Berlin Turnpike. I remember
Oh,
it might have been called pagodas or something like that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
There was
remember
a
that.
pet,
It was Lobster Man, bitch.
A little further up.
But even today, there's about 50 motels on the Berlin Turnpike in Weathersfield, Millington, Berlin, and like 1,300 motel rooms. Now, there's not that much tourism in Berlin, Weathersfield,
Right.
and Millington. Nice towns, but Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun combined don't have that many rooms.
Yet you drive by, and the parking lots are always packed.
Each one's a heartbreak.
Secret love.
And you're right, they rent by the room,
Yeah.
some of them.
Yeah.
And every year somebody in the legislature tries to eradicate that, but you just kind of can't. It's not going to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
But so that's, having grown up here and realized I had sort of a bit of a gold mine of being able to explain how human trafficking works in America. Because there's been other books about human trafficking, obviously. But they're over sensationalized or over sentimental. They don't have to be. And no one had really gone into the history of it and showed. And I knew because you know how people think about Connecticut around the country. They think everything's Greenwich everywhere you go.
You know what's crazy? Everywhere you go, like
They think we're all yuppies.
Yeah.
they think, oh my God, what side of Greenwich are you from?
Exactly.
I'm like, the right side.
So I use that. I figure, okay, if I can show people without a doubt that it happens in Connecticut, then maybe they won't doubt that it's happening in their town as well across the country. So I went into the history of the Turnpike, and you're right. They first carved it out in 1798 between the courthouse and Hartford, the courthouse in Haven, just as basically a cow path just to get between. And then when cars started to get come into usage, and there used to be 100 car manufacturers in Connecticut. Basically, all the bicycle and carriage shops put motors on them, called themselves a car shop. They opened that thing up because it would just allow people to just drive up and down. And the history of the road itself is really cool. But what I did was I just used it as a sort of a metaphor for the internet. Because even today, you drive down the Berlin Turnpike and you go past Stu Leonard's and Lowe's and Home Depot, but then you go by these old, creepy motels that have been there since before the war. And
I've done fugitive recovery and I've been to every one of them, working right before one of you fucking throws a quick one. But those places are, you look at them, you need a fucking tetanus shot or worse.
You drive into some of them and you see, single moms hanging out with their kids on a hot day, and they've just gotten a room. Either they got somebody paid for the room for a couple nights, but they're sad places. But you drive behind them, man, it gets scary. Because I take people on tours, just to kind of show them where the things from the book took place and the trial took place, and people just can't believe it. They can't believe that this is in their town and all this is just. It looks
Never
like
thought about that going behind that.
Oh, you go behind them, man. That's it's behind places, even the massage parlors.
Ramon's hitting you up for a tour. I was just telling you. He's trying to be coy, but he's flirting. He's flirting. I'm just saying.
But it's and even when I do, like I said, the law enforcement training, we've got almost 200 massage parlors here in Connecticut. And there's websites. I'm not going to say what they are, but you can look them up and get ratings and see what they'll do to you. But cops go and bust them, and they go in the front door. Well, that's a dead giveaway. They all have back doors that are propped open.
With their buzz cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
511s, Merrills,
So they're hard to bust, but that's a whole other topic. So yeah, I went into the history of it and how long it's been taking place there. I tried to find the first prostitution arrests in on the Berlin Turnpike. It was first one I could find on newspaper was like 1950s. And they didn't call it prostitution in the paper; they called it lascivious carriage.
Lascivious carriage.
Yeah.
Lascivious
It
bitches.
just sounds a lot better.
It well, it did. It was more palatable to people, but it was a 15-year-old girl, and but yeah, so it's been a mess for a long, long time. Wow. Really, now still a lot going on there, but it has moved to the internet, and and when I do my training, I go over all the reasons why this thing has exploded, trafficking, and I should explain. Human trafficking is really divided into two parts. There's sex trafficking, which is what this book is about, the sex trafficking ring. But really the larger aspect of human trafficking is labor trafficking, is forced and exploited labor. And I try to tell people that's the part we're all complicit in. If you've ever bought shrimp or coffee or chocolate or Nutella or diamond or cotton.
As I'm looking at the chocolate off my finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Still eating.
And the thing, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we do about it. That's, we're not going to get involved in sex trafficking every day, but the products we use every day, and that's the book I'm working on.
And I feel bad because I always these guys will tell you, like if somebody says, hey, let's go to a certain ethnic restaurant, and I go, well, the people I'm like, I'll only go there if like the staff is questionable INS status. I'm sorry, man, I'm not going to a Mexican restaurant with Chad as my waiter.
Yeah.
Fuck that, can I help? Fucking beat it, Chad. I want Guillermo. I want everybody in this place to have the same fucking social security. You know what I mean? And I'll admit, you're right. I'm complicit, man. I'm a shitbag. But it's just
there's a lot of that here.
But it's just to touch on that, how you were saying the trafficking. Every time you hear trafficking, you think it's sex trafficking. Yep. I'm guilty of that. And then today I realized I was watching on TV, and a girl last night, she actually interviewed a trafficker.
Wow.
And that's what he was talking about. He felt so bad because some of the kids that he was bringing over as traffickers, he says once he brought them over, they were done with him, and people would kill him on the spot.
Yeah.
And I was like, never thought of it that way as labor traffickers or whatever, drug mules or whatever. I just always thought sex traffickers, but yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I went to the 25th Arnold Markle symposium with Dr. Lee at the university, and that was the topic of it, And they had a guest speaker named Timea Nagy. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
So, yeah.
She wrote a book called Out of the Shadows, and how she was brought over from Turkey.
Right.
And her story was just compelling.
Oh, of course.
And like I said, she was the speaker at the symposium that year. And like I walked out of there just like, and like I have a problem going to our casinos. Mm-hmm. I really do. I'm not a gambler. Me and these monkeys, we're usually like, we go for shows, we
grab a
beer and that's it. But like, I'll tell you, like my ex one time, she's like, chill. Like we're at the bar and man, there's like a fucking 65-year-old dude and he's got a 20-year-old dime piece with him. And I'm bothered beyond fucking recognition. And she's like, let it go. I said, I want to bust this motherfucker in the head with a bottle because you're a piece of shit. Yeah. And she's like, let it go. And it's like, and it's, and when you go up there, you see these dudes front row, like I said, some 65-year-old guy with a 20-year-old dime piece. Come on, man. We all know what that is.
So last week, I'm in the Bahamas, right?
Not that you're dropping names, but go
ahead. As soon as I land, that's the first sign I see. Beware of human trafficking. These are the signs. And they have all these signs. You go to the bathroom, beware of human trafficking. These are the signs. You go to the restaurant, beware. Everywhere I go, I walk into the casino, beware of the signs. And as soon as I walk into the casino, beware of the signs are sitting right there like, oh, shit.
There it is.
There it is right there.
Yeah. What good is it if you don't know what you're looking for, though?
Yeah.
Whether you're a potential victim.
Yeah. So at least they were trying to give you some insight by, how much can you give on a little placard, but they had, if you see this, things that stand out. That
we got those signs in Connecticut too.
Yeah.
They're up
I've
in
never
the
seen
truck stops in the bathroom.
Yeah, I would assume in the TV
and they're supposed to be in the massage parlors, but there's some.
Jimmy, did they have it at the massage parlor?
Well, if they want someone to read them, you got to put them down while you're facing down or while you're facing up.
Oh man, yeah, but that kind of took me off. When I walk everywhere, I've been looking at the signs. I was like, gotta be a lot of human trafficking going on here. The signs are at every corner you look at. There's a sign.
Houston Airport I was in last weekend. not only they have it on like display screens, just flashing, but it comes up on the public service announcement like every 4 minutes. They're talking about human trafficking in Houston Airport. That's, I know.
Yeah,
So it's starting to make a little bit of headway in making people aware of it, but there's still a lot of myths and misinformation about it. And when I do a talk, either to teachers or medical personnel or cops, I base it on the misinformation because people just don't, they just believe this stuff. And I'll go into that in a second, how bad that's gotten in the past couple of years. But one of the myths I tell people is that the vast majority of sex trafficking victims in America are American. I mean, why go? I mean, yes, if they do come from Mexico, they will be brought in from Turkey, but that's crazy. Why do that when you can go to West Farms Mall, or you can just sit there on your phone and recruit some girl on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat?
All you gotta do is tell her, hey, listen, I'm a photographer. Let me do a photo shoot with
Exactly.
you. Okay.
And
Everybody wants to be an Instagram model.
Or at the club.
Yeah.
And these guys will have cards that say there was a pimp that got arrested with Dennis Paris, and his card on the back of it said, "Do you know how much you're worth?" And this generation, the millennials and younger, if somebody says you're worth, hey girl, you're worth $2,000-3,000 a night, why don't you come with me, work with me? They're all about it. I'm gonna go to the best parties. I'm gonna get great clothes. I'm gonna do all that sort of stuff.
And like you see in the book, why would you want a foreigner? Why would you want someone local who has a pulse for the area, who knows the ins and outs?
Who ain't gonna raise no eyebrows to the popo
Right.
because she's a non-speaker,
Exactly, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for girls that are maybe brown and maybe got. I'm not kidding. They think they all have a barcode tattoo on it. I've never seen a victim with a barcode tattoo on it. That's another myth. And the girl maybe doesn't speak English or doesn't have kind of papers or a license or any ID. But if they see a girl with jeans and a sweatshirt or t-shirt walking around one of the casinos,
Business as usual.
we made a presentation. I won't say which one, but to the tribal council of one of the casinos a few years back. And the head of the tribal council said to me, "Oh, we don't see girls here looking like that."
Man.
And I said, "Looking like what?" He goes, "Well, And I said, like Julia Roberts and Pretty Women." He goes, "Yeah, like that." I said, "Yeah, you think they're going to dress like that? You ever see a girl in jeans and a t-shirt?"
This ain't 1983 fucking 42nd Street, man.
Literally,
Come
that's
on.
what they're looking for. So,
And that's exactly what you're not gonna see because they know that's what you're looking for.
really, exactly. So the really cool, we introduced them to one of the victims we've worked with, and she told them exactly how it works. That they hang out by the chip exchange where the winners go and they change their chips for money, and they wait for the guy's big winner, and they just follow them, and they got to bring their money out to the pimps waiting in the parking lot. So she was telling these people who run the casino, who own the casino,
They don't want to hear it.
about holes in their security.
It's
And
not
as you
happening.
know, these guys, they're pretty security minded at casinos. 5,000 cameras on you all at once. And they had no idea.
Facial recognition.
Oh my God, they got everything, but they had no idea how it worked.
They had COVID recognition.
Yeah, exactly. But they're a vast majority of American girls. And the 4 girls that testified against Dennis Paris in this trial, they were from Vermont, New Hampshire. And and in fact,
Wholesome dairy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and here's the interesting part about this trial is in 2007, and they really promised these girls the world protection and help after the trial because they nailed the guy. They got nothing to the point that this afternoon, one of the girls, Jen, and she's okay with me using her name, who testified against him in 2007, doesn't have a place to live, doesn't have a place to put her 2 kids. Her car is broken down. She's in Vermont. And not only was she promised everything by the feds and the state of Connecticut, but years later, when she testified in 2017, because we were passing some laws here at the state legislature, she had a whole bunch of people, state representatives, people from the DCF say, "Oh my gosh, we're going to do this. Never heard from them again." So she still calls me. So right now,
This would be a good time to make us think because guess what? November's election year.
exactly it.
Get somebody involved in
And there's
this.
somebody running for office.
Yeah.
Nobody gonna listen.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers getting free college right now, man. That's like nobody gonna listen right now. Motherfuckers are counting their money right now.
And there's somebody running for office that came alongside her and said, "We're going to do everything we can for you," and blew her off, ghosted her totally after that 5 years ago. And that person's running for office in West Hartford right now, and nothing.
This is highly unoffended, bro. Got no fucking agendas here, bro. Got no fucking.
Yeah, that just so I talked to her a few hours ago, and we got to try to find her a place to live and a place for her kids to live. It's rough for their whole life because this scars you. I've known domestic violence victims and sexual assault victims and the tragedies they go through and the scars that leaves for their whole lives. Can you imagine being assaulted multiple times a day for years? and the scar that leaves for you forever, and no help afterwards, even though these people have promised you. Used you again, because the pimp used you first, the trafficker used you
And then the
first,
system pimped
and
you.
then the symptoms did the same thing to you. Used you and threw you away.
They just did it with fucking with ties on.
I'm like, now I'm getting all hot.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It sucks. So, I wanted to expose it. I wanted to expose it in a way that people could not deny it's happening. And I wanted to show them how it works now. And, people think, oh, it's in our own backyard. No, it's in your hand. It's in your cell phone. You can go to multiple websites right now.
Apps.
And, there's basically Ubers for sex now. You can just dial up and, I've used this term for years, but you can order a girl like a pizza, and they'll be dropped right at your house. And I talked to one of the girls. She said, I was with this guy and my pimp's waiting in the driveway and he's telling me to hurry up. And the guy wants to hurry up because he wants to hurry up because his wife's out shopping. And I'm like, wait a minute, listen. So you're with this guy doing him in his house. His wife's out shopping. The pimp's in the driveway. She goes, yeah, that's pretty typical. I'm like, oh my God.
That's some
the
crazy
horror
shit.
stuff.
Yeah.
Really, really
That's
crazy
mad
stuff.
crazy.
So that's why what I wanted to do is give a voice to these victims, because nobody listens to them. And if you ever have me back a year or 2 years from now, I'd love to bring in Jen and have her, because she's the expert. I'm not an expert. She is, and she will blow you away.
Yeah.
It's funny because we just had our first return guest the other day, and then who called me today, Tim? Johnny K.
No.
Yeah, he got into a big thing on Facebook with somebody saying he needed a CAT scan about the police accountability. I'm about to call him, and he calls me. He's like, "I got to get back on your show." So I'm like, we got to look at the calendar before you leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, yeah, you can come back on the show, man, whenever, brother. You want to bring somebody? You call me.
One of the girls we worked with, and I worked for her. I first met her at Hartford Community Court in 2008, I think, and she had been arrested. She had been working with her pimp for a while. Didn't get him. I mean, he just screwed her over every way he could. She got arrested. She was down in Niantic for a month, and they called us and said, "Listen, we want to release her."
Niantic is the women's prison
Yes,
for
right.
the non-locals that are listening. Niantic is York Correctional, Janet York, right? The Janet York Correctional Facility that is our women's here in Connecticut.
In Niantic, Connecticut. But she was there for a month. They came up and they called me and they said, "Listen, we want to let her go, but we're looking at her pimp right now in the parking lot. He's leaning against the car waiting for her. And we know he's just going to turn her out again." So we came in the back, got her out the back. And she was the most vivacious, wonderful, she was like 25 at the time, but she looked like she was 14. And, she and I would do lectures together, and I'd bring her to doctor's appointments. We just became great friends. And, she was a victim of human trafficking. And unfortunately, 5 years ago, she became a victim of the opiate crisis. She just couldn't keep the.
Quick question, Raymond. Paint us the picture of the pimp, because I know Hollywood gives us the smooth talker, Betty Crocker, smooth cat, dresser, and all that. Show them to us. I think at our age demographic, we think about the Huggy Bear type from like Beretta, shit like that. Yeah, man. We think about that. But
Huggy Bear was from Starsky and Hutch.
Starsky and Hutch, not Beretta. You're right.
He played him in the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So show like
we're old.
Yeah, roger that. So I guess when we use that word, that's kind of like the 70s, I guess. Stereotype of him.
Yeah. Hollywood showed us that too.
But
what does the pimp look like?
What's he looking like nowadays?
Male, female, white, dark, Asian, related to the girl, maybe a boyfriend, maybe an uncle, maybe the mother. I've heard it all. It's all out there. They're all pimps. All the massage parlors in Connecticut are run out of, they're a completely different culture. Totally different. Run out of Asian gangs out of Flushing, Queens, New York.
Now, like, were they recruiting? Because I know the same thing back to a movie. Yeah. You see some country bumpkin girl getting off at the train station, the bus station.
Oh, they'll wait at the train station.
Because like it almost reminds me of the Guns N' Roses "Welcome to the Jungle" when you see Axl getting off and he got a piece of straw in his mouth, looking like a real hick, and he's looking at the big inner city, and all of a sudden, these guys are like sharks. because they smell it. They're like, you ain't from the city, man. You a country bumpkin.
Yeah, they'll still wait at the train station, but that's kind of lowbrow now. But I mean, again, they look like everybody. There's no way there's not many that drive around the Cadillac anymore with the big hat and the feather on the back of it and the big long fur coat. That's just
That's Hollywood.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Diamond in the back,
Yeah.
sunroof down, digging the scene on the gangster lean.
I need another drink.
You know how many times I've watched the Mac
Yeah.
or Superfly? Damn it.
Oh my God.
I was watching Superfly the other night at 3 a.m.
Oh my, really?
Yeah, I watched.
50 years old.
I couldn't sleep, and guess what? I put on Superfly.
Totally off topic, but if you see My Name is Dolomite, Eddie Murphy, that movie is awesome. It's historically accurate and it's fascinating about the guy who basically invented
Dolomite.
Dolomite.
Yeah.
I mean, that's he was amazing. Anyway,
I woke up the next day saying racial epithets, calling everybody honky. I was just fucking out of my mind.
it's hard not to. So that's what they look like, and the recruiting happens now. Yes, in person, happens at clubs, happens at parties, happens everywhere it could. And it's just funny in my research. In that book I told you about, the research that John D. Rockefeller did, movie theater lobbies. That was because movies were new back then. In 1912, you didn't go to, if you were reputable, you didn't go to see movies back then. Lobbies were horrible places that are taking girls out. But now it's just the internet. It's all you got to do is the internet. You just surf all day long.
This social media. Everybody wants to be a social media. It's the instant superstar, and they'll sell their soul for that instant.
Baby. That was all about the like.
All you gotta do is just go on Instagram and look for girls that are posting and trying. They're literally trying to get as many people to look at.
Slide into that DM.
Exactly.
Oh, I just did legs today. Next thing you know, you're showing me your tits. Wait a minute. No, you did legs. How come I'm looking at your cleavage?
Yeah, exactly. So here I'm at the beach. So I mean, it's easier now than ever before. Easier to recruit them, easier to sell them, just because of the internet, social media, everything else. Yeah. I mean, they took away Craigslist, took away their escort ads a long time ago.
Intimate encounters.
Yeah, exactly. Man, it was bad. It was real bad. But it was easy to find those being abused, and we used to run ads along with the ads for girls. We'd have come see me at this motel. I'm only 18. I'll come to your house. And then there was, do you need help to get out? Call us or text us at this number. And then it's all switched over to Backpage, and then Backpage got taken over by the feds in 2018. So now it's kind of spread out all over the place. And but it's so easy to find. I mean, you don't have to think about it. Back in the day, before all that, you had to wait till nighttime, go to that part of South End of Hartford, maybe Wethersfield Avenue, and bad weather, forget about it. Snow, rain, forget about it. So it was a night in summer time like
Britain,
this.
Lafayette was
Exactly.
You know what's crazy here in New Britain that I always found, so fucked up? You know where the track is for the working girls?
Where?
In front of the fucking unemployment office. Ain't that fucking weird? It's right in front of the unemployment.
Right? From
And
the
what's-
unemployment office to Dunkin' Donuts and back.
And around the corner is the kielbasa factory. I'm like, yeah, you can't make this shit up.
Right next to Martin Rosa.
Exactly. You can't make this shit up. I'm just.
But every city had Waterbury. I mean, we used to go down to Waterbury, and I've got video on the YouTube as well. It's a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old being moved by a pimp in a parking lot of 7-Eleven in Waterbury.
What's your Raymond? What's your YouTube channel?
Just Raymond Bouchard is my
Raymond
name.
Bouchard. Check him.
And but now you just don't need it. You don't need to drive around. You just get on your phone, and in 5 minutes you're talking to somebody who can bring you stuff.
That's crazy because everything is instant. And back in the day, what they tell you? Oh, don't talk to strangers. Don't get in the car with a stranger. What do you do now? You pick up a phone, talk to a stranger, they'll come pick you up, and then you get in the car with that stranger.
You got it. And that's a problem. Kids.
You want a water? Bitch, I don't know you. I ain't taking a water
There's
from
no
you.
more stranger danger.
Every time you get in there, would you like a water? I'm like, man, I don't know you like that. I don't know.
I
Right?
got my own water.
Exactly. Every time,
I know
would you
where
like
to
it?
go.
I'm like,
I remember attending training a while back. We're all retired law enforcement. This is back when Facebook was.
Tim, you got a sexy ass voice.
Yeah.
are-
Yeah, would you excuse us?
you guys
I want to step into the phone for a second.
I remember going to training. Oh, hey.
No, but this guy was.
thank God we don't have HR here at my company.
Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, this guy, he was like a local expert on the whole Facebook thing. And in a matter of minutes, he broke down and he just plugged the name in there and said, watch this.
Yeah.
So he found a girl. The girl She had a couple photos of herself playing softball, this and that. And honestly, got in a matter of minutes, you figure out where she lived. Because my next step would be get in the car, go try to buy there, watch her routine, see when she comes and goes, and that kind of stuff, just like that.
Easy. It's so
Now, what's that new shit? Fans only?
only
OnlyFans.
fans.
Only fans. I see, you know.
And that's literally just out there, just showing them whatever you want. But you subscribe. I mean, there's some girls.
You know what's so
girl
crazy
don't
about
think they
that?
make $1 million a month.
You know what's so crazy about that? I guess they became a public company last year,
Yeah.
and they put out the notice, no more pornography. All of a sudden, everything dropped. They said, "Hey, forget it. Go back to pornography." The stock went right back up. October, in October, the stock went down, and November, the stock went right back up. But they said, "Forget about it."
Yeah, because they were
Come back,
that was 75% of the business.
That's all their business.
Was live on demand.
Let me tell you,
interactive porn.
anytime you hear OnlyFans, that's what you think it is.
Oh yeah.
Porn.
Well, there's also, I mean, there's that, but there's also Chatterbait, Jerkmate, and that is, and this blows people away. But I mean, there's tens of thousands of people all over the world, men and women, or
Type
couples,
one.
and just yeah, exactly.
That's his website.
You can go there too. It's one of the heaviest advertising. And but they're live. You're watching them live, and they've got a vibrator device inserted, and you get to control it. You tip them with money, and it's on Bluetooth, and it goes right through their computer, and you get to see the reaction. And so it's not only live, but it's interactive. It's on demand.
Bimini Bay.
Yeah. So you just, I mean, how tough is it for you to find where they are?
Exactly.
Yeah, and to go to just.
I mean, the
Money
search
talk.
engines they'll pop up the algorithms. They make sure they get them things right up there. So the first 2-3 letters you pop up,
That shit always right there.
You look for it once, and it's gonna shove it to you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I wish these people would be as industrious with more productive things,
Yeah,
legitimate
exactly.
things. You know what I mean?
I mean, Amazon's pretty cool, but
Yeah.
but you're right. I mean, but I've noticed too in researching the book, the two things that always go to new technology first. Like if you remember when VHS tapes just first came out, what were the two groups that used VHS and really made it blow up? It was religion, because they wanted to put all their their faith-based videos so people could take it home, and porn. And the same thing with the internet. It was religion and porn together.
So you're saying as human beings, any technology, we either weaponize it or sex it.
Yeah, we either put religion on it or weaponize it. You're right.
I was too young for the porn part, so I just threw in the Jade Fonda, the VCR tape.
The exercise tape.
He ran on Golden Pond, fucking perv. It's funny. I used to work with a Navy SEAL. You know what I'm talking about? Pretty kid, a cat.
You know, so funny. I was supposed to hang out with him on Monday.
Oh my God.
I blew him off.
So
I totally forgot.
this guy, I get to work with him. I'm in my I'm like 21, 22. And this guy, he's a little belly on him, bald head. He's talking about Vietnam. This guy brings in his pictures one day. He's six-packed up. This motherfucker looks like Steve McQueen. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, not for nothing, bro, no homo. You fucking, I got a man crush on you, son. And he was like, well, back in my day, gee. And this guy was hysterical. So we used to work a couple of days apart. So like when it was like my half week, it was his Friday. So, every time he'd be like, hey, have a good rest of the week, loser. I'm off. And I'm like, yeah, you're going home to watch Jane Fonda flicks? I'll kill you. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to go home watch On Golden Pond? And this guy, Archie, would want to kill me, bro. He was the best. And this guy, old SEAL, man. And he was just a cool ass dude.
A SEAL from like Vietnam days.
Yeah, man.
Like Kennedy started. So
he brought his scrapbook in one day, and like I said,
the original Frogman.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, somebody's gonna make a mistake and push this old white dude around one day, and they're gonna fuck their day up.
He's not gonna have to think about it.
Yeah, and I seen him one day put his hands on somebody. I was like,
it was funny because I was a brand new supervisor, and he fell under my chain of command. Right, I knew nothing about the guy. But you could sense, he got the little,
the way he carried himself.
Yeah, he had his little cap, and you see the little USMC. He carried himself. So I knew he was, respectable. And then I heard the stories. I was like, okay. I started talking to him because my son was in the Marines. As soon as I told him my son was in the Marines, he became my buddy. I was like, oh shit. So he told me some stories.
Yeah.
Those are early days too. Oh my God.
So what prompted the book? Obviously, you were out there. When did you start doing your reporting, Raymond?
Well, it wasn't just reporting. It was, you know, we were working with victims, we were finding
Yep,
victims,
yep.
but once I realized that this case had happened, and it was in Hartford, based in Hartford, and, you know, as an author, you write what you know. I knew this area, I knew the Berlin Turnpike, but then all of a sudden this trial happens right here as well. And I'm thinking, well, this is a way to tell it.
You ain't trying to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
This is you.
Yeah, this is
So
just-
did writing the book lead you to doing your work?
Oh no,
with
we
the
were doing
victims?
it
You were
before.
already doing
Yeah,
the
I
work.
started around probably 2002, 2003
Okay.
doing the work, and then I started writing this in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, and it took a while. As you can see, it's 500 pages. It's not like summer reading for the beach, but it took me a while to get through it because I wanted to give a complete story. Nobody had put together the history of how it worked ever before. You know, and as I said earlier, some of the other books were kind of like other good books. They tell a great story, compelling story. Some of them are like almost like long brochures for organizations or
Yeah.
NGOs doing this kind of work. And I just wanted to write something that would interest everyone, the history of it and everything. So I just started in and said, we got to tell this story. These victims need a voice. And so I really sort of parallel it in the book with the civil rights movement and the anti-slavery, the abolitionist movement, because populations throughout history, in American history, have had no voice. And this was a population, I realized, that has never had a voice. Nobody listens. Still true.
This is something that you really don't think about unless it affects you. A lot of people
absolutely,
don't.
Yeah.
It's not something you're thinking about, human trafficking on a daily basis, unless somebody that you know is affected by it or something. You run into it on social media.
Which
you might
is-
think about it,
right.
but other than that, it's not something that you think about.
And it's scary because you don't know. If you don't know, then you don't know how vulnerable your kids are, your grandkids are, your niece and nephew, your students.
I
But
tell-
then by the time you find out, it's too
It's
late.
too way too
I tell
late.
people all the time, your biggest threat at your house comes into your internet fucking life.
Oh my God, yeah.
And they look at me like, what do you mean? And I'm like, bro, if you don't think your biggest threat comes in through that fucking wire,
Yeah.
for your Wi-Fi, I'm like, bro, you're tripping.
I was kind of a scrawny kid in high school. I got bullied, you know, but I would go home at the end of the day and I was safe. You know, I'd walk in the house at 3:00 and I'd do my homework, I'd do my paper route, or I just, you know, and I was safe until the next day. Now the kids get home, they are in their bedroom, they're on their phone, it's 10:00 at night, and they're still getting it. They're still getting people calling them, you know, whatever they call them. They're never safe. There's no safe space.
Yeah, you might be inside the house, but everything's there with you.
The shark fins are still around.
Yep. Yeah. There's no hiding from it if you're on your phone. And you know.
Remember those days? Tell mom, hey, I'm gonna go to such and such house. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Oh
Now,
yeah. I know,
you tell
exactly.
Mom, I'm gonna go such and such. Call me when you get there.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be there? Are the
Well,
parents gonna be there?
Or just turn your location on.
Yep, that's
you know?
it. You have to worry.
Does his uncle have a risk of injury to a minor? You know what I mean? It's crazy
Yeah.
shit.
But along the way, in this, a couple things happened. I found out because people started to contact me from really all over the world, from Spain and Ireland and all over the country, saying, "Are you aware of Facebook?" And this is about 10 years ago. And I found that there were the Arab Spring in 2011,
Yeah.
and the people in Egypt were using Facebook secret groups, which nobody could look in or see unless you were invited in, to kind of organize rallies and protests and bring down the government in Egypt and other countries as well. Well, the other people were using that were pedophiles trading pictures of kids. And so think about it, for the first time ever, because before they had to collect their own, make their own, maybe trade. They were alone and isolated, unvalidated. But now with Facebook and these secret groups, and they could set up their own galleries, they could use these photos.
And unless you're a member, you can't see it.
And they were working with borders, didn't matter where you were, how old you were, where you were. If you were on Facebook, you could trade all these photos, all these videos, and then it validated you. You weren't alone anymore. Oh, this is, I'm finding other people, like-minded people. And Facebook wasn't doing a thing about it.
I'm reaching my brethren.
Yeah, exactly. So we started going after them. I started an online petition on an old website called causes.com. We got 1.5 million followers like that. We got 400,000 people signing a petition to Mark Zuckerberg to address this issue. But to address it was to acknowledge that it was happening. And they did not. Oh, no, we're using this software. It recognizes these pictures and gets rid of them. I said, okay, does it recognize video? Does it recognize links to sites where these things are? And they, it took them about 3 or 4 years of me just harping after them, going after them. They do not like me to this day. But finally, they started to clean up their act.
You know what?
Man,
Fuck them.
It was bad.
You got us now. Don't worry about it. You got a problem? You call us.
Yeah.
You call us. Don't worry about it.
Well, the other thing I went after, because after the trial, was the Hartford Advocate. Now, Hartford Advocate, owned by the Hartford Courant, which is owned by, used to be called the Tribune Company. Now it's the
Those back pages back there were, oh my God.
bad. And this is the Hartford Courant's the oldest continually operating newspaper in the country, and they own this thing. And I went after them. They even wrote an article that Hartford Advocate did about the ads themselves. Still wouldn't stop running them. So finally, I went to some state legislator friends of mine and said, "Hey, why don't we just pass a law that says if you're advertising and there's a minor involved, then the publishers and the owners are
Liable.
liable and accountable." Well, to pass the law in 2012, 10 years ago, the law went into effect October 1st. Hartford Advocate stopped running those ads like October 15th and was out of business a year later. That's why people they haven't seen the Hartford Advocate in like 10 years. It's gone. And I have one of those boxes. Remember the boxes were all over the place?
Yeah.
I have one of those. It's my trophy.
Yep.
Yeah. So it just, you guys eat pretzels and a podcast?
I
I mean,
don't want to hear the crunching.
how about a brownie or something? I mean,
Ramon brings,
What kind of brownie?
Ramon brings those. The problem with him is he brings those kind and then everything goes to shit.
so there's no weed in the pretzel.
No.
Oh, forget it. You had my hopes up.
Oh man.
Next time, brother.
But yeah, man. So that's crazy because all these people, you wouldn't think about, like you said, Connecticut wouldn't. I never really thought about when Jimmy turned me onto that book, and I was like, oh, Turnpike, Connecticut. And you would never think about it.
But that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Because no one ever does.
Yeah.
And I was weird because I found out all this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, even the newspapers, when this trial was going on, they didn't know how to report on it. I mean, it's human trafficking. We don't get it. So it's just a pimp, right? It's like, no, it's way bigger. So I was like, okay, if I'm the one who knows about it, I probably should be the one to tell people about it. So I sat down on my couch with a cat on my lap for a year and wrote the book.
So what would you say? Let's say the percentage of the prostitution is human trafficking.
That is a tough one. There's no way to tell that. And I know what, in the book, I try to disassemble all the people that say they've got the data, they've got the numbers, and how the numbers went around back and forth, and nobody knew where they came from. But like the State Department's quoting them, the New York Times quotes the State Department, and the State Department quotes the New York Times, but nobody knows where the data came
You
from.
have to have an exact count of everybody.
There's no way to tell
Yeah.
because
Untangible.
if there's a guy or girl who's in college and he or she's got a couple of regulars and it's they're of age, 21 years old.
Them.
Yeah, exactly. So what are you going to do about that? How do you count that? They're keeping it secret, and some aren't keeping it secret anymore. And this is what I tell people.
Starts off as a secret.
Yeah, exactly. But that's do you have a problem with that if it's two consenting adults and there's money exchange? I don't know. That's not what I'm talking about
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
And it's there's a controversial way to address it, and I don't know if it probably happens state by state here eventually, and that is to decriminalize consensual sex work. And not many people realize that about 10 years ago, the Supreme Court of Canada, talking about Canada, wiped out all of the prostitution laws in Canada. Said none of this. It's too dangerous for the sex workers. We have to address this. So they kind of adopted what's called the Nordic model, which is you decriminalize it for the sex worker, and you criminalize it for the buyer. And so you go after the whole. Remember, because they used to run the pictures of these women who got arrested for prostitution. You'd see their pictures in the paper, and
To make them wear the scarlet letter.
holy crap!
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
they're obviously distressed or
It's against their will.
Oh God! And it's and of course and I'm not kidding. The Hartford Community Court, the girls would do like 30 days down in your prison. Do you know what the Johns who got arrested would do? And I'm not kidding.
Bond them out.
Donation.
They would have to write an essay
Oh,
and read it to the girls. That was their punishment. I'm not kidding. And they we don't want to put their names in the paper
But
because their families will be ruined. Oh, my
But you want to
God.
hear something? I'll bring it back. I can see that because I remember back in the late 80s, my sister walking to high school. Some pervert calls over, hey, I need directions to a certain. My sister wants to go help out, whatever. Gives the guy goes over to give the guy directions. He's sitting there masturbating in the car. So they happened to get a license plate, whatever. He got arrested, and that was one of the conditions. He had to write her a letter.
Wow.
I'm like, we get a letter from this dude. So I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
So this criminalizes it. So here's the thing: if you look at it, and I've looked at it from every point of view. But if you look at it as an economic model, right, and you see that the human trafficker who gets the product, which is the girl, she's gotten, and then sells it to the John, where do you interrupt that circle, that flow? Well, the girls are always going to be there. They're always going to be recruitable, and the guys, because honestly, you guys know.
But how would you differentiate consensual and non-consensual?
That's the tough part. That's the really tough part. What you do is you criminalize it for the John, for the customer. And once the demand goes down, the market goes down. But if you decriminalize it to the point where you're basically registering the sex worker, right? And they have to get training, and they have to get checked on their health, and we know who they are, and they got to pay taxes.
Now it's a red light district.
Well, no, but you're able to. I mean, and I'm not advocating. I'm just saying this is what some people are saying. Probably the way it's going to go, right? So it's like any other legitimate therapist that has to go through training and get certified. So they're working legitimately as a sex worker, right? So anybody who's not certified, then it's pretty easy to tell the difference, right? Okay, why is this person, not registering? So it may go that way state by state, because that's kind of the way it works now in some counties in Nevada, and has for a long time.
Seems contradictory, but there's some validity. There's some.
But look,
I mean,
look where we're at though.
it's
Weed's
the oldest
legal now.
profession. You're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So you might as well try to control
How-
it, contain it.
How fucked up are we right now? Weed's legal. When the fuck when did you see
And
that?
it happened like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go into a fucking you go into a dispensary. It looks like the fucking Apple store. That fucking place is all, you know what I mean? You got all these skinny jean croc wearing little fucking fuckers in their high. Chad wants to sell me a fucking sativa or an indica. You know what I mean? My checkout girl Paige, she was so nice to me. Oh my God. Dakota, she helped me out picking my strand. She was fabulous.
But I mean, think of how that happened, right? A lot of it was from law enforcement saying we are wasting a lot of money busting people for weed.
Tying up the docket.
Exactly, which is exactly what happened with prohibition. So it's really interesting. Studying what happened with the Berlin Turnpike, I found something pretty interesting. So back when it was first paved in 1909, right, 103 years ago, it was basically that gravelly stuff and oil that you see in like some beach towns and beach communities. That's what it was. But in 1920, it got paved. But so did like every road on the East Coast got paved within like a 2-year period, starting in 1920. Why 1920? That's when Prohibition started.
Oh.
So the gangs that were moving liquor went to the county supervisor and said, we need this road paved because we can't do it by horse and carriage. We can't do it by train. We're using cars and we're getting flats on these crappy roads and pave them for us. So we'll pay you, pay
Taking bottles.
So everything got paved.
I'm losing product over here, lady.
So FDR comes into the White House in 1933, early 1933, and looks at it and goes, well, we're spending millions of dollars a year in the middle of the Depression trying to get rid of liquor. We'll never do it. On the other hand, we could legalize it again, get rid of that amendment to the Constitution, and tax it, which is what they did. So it went from a red line on the budget to a very, very black line on the budget. And that's what happened to weed. Same thing happened to weed. It's like we're spending too much money, trying to enforce this. We're never going to do it, legitimize it. And that way, again, like the model I told you with decriminalizing sex work is, if you have the legitimate places selling weed, then nobody who's, then it's easy to tell who's not.
I just think with the weed, and I know people are going to say I'm wrong, but it's a victimless crime.
Oh my God.
What the fuck? Somebody smoking weed. The only thing he ever killed was some fucking potato chips or some fucking hostess.
You guys are all cops?
Yeah.
Okay. You probably had to wrestle drunk people at some point.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll fight a guy high on weed than a guy fucking drunk on liquid
You don't
courage.
have to fight a guy high.
Exactly.
He's just sitting on the couch eating potato chips, like you said.
We've put our hands on a lot of drunk motherfuckers over the years.
So they say, guys on weed, stop at green lights. Guys on alcohol, run red lights.
Exactly. I talked to so many cops that said I've had to fight a lot of drunk guys. Never had to fight somebody on weed. So
Oh, my honey bun, he's fine.
yeah, exactly.
So let's dive into the book here.
Sure.
Let's dive into the book because it's a good run. It's dicey, and we had a lot of dialogue prior to you getting here, and he said some shit on that I didn't know, and he was knowing someone, and I have history with somebody in the book, and
Do you really?
Yeah.
yes, I
Law enforcement?
Mm-hmm.
she was
I
a
know
she
you're
was
talking
internal affairs prior,
Yeah.
and I was involved in an incident, and
She
so
was my immediate supervisor.
Well,
Yeah.
that's sick, really.
yeah, so me and the pimp in the Crown Vic. That's what I'm gonna call it. I think I'm gonna call this episode "Pimp in the Crown Vic." How you like that,
right?
So me and this chick had no, like, we were in the middle of a union, and she hated me. She kept calling caucus on me.
Oh, crap.
She fucking said that I was hostile. She said I was hostile. Picture that shit, dogs. She said I was fucking hostile.
That's just
Fucking
not-
blasphemy, exactly. Fuck that. I had to hit her with the red card. So she said that I was hostile in the middle of this fucking delegation and all this shit, and I was intimidating her and all this shit. No, I wasn't. So I slammed the book on the table. Perhaps. It slipped out of my hand.
Darn gravity.
Exactly. So let's. Where did this start with them? With this crew.
So Dennis Paris, like I said, got put away. I met his brother at the sentencing of Dennis Paris, and he got arrested. The brother did a couple years later, and same crimes.
I was 15.
And rumor has it his brother was fucking
Brother was worth here.
way more of an enforcer than him.
Gorilla pimp operating here out in Britain, and I've talked to the state prosecutor, federal prosecutor, and they're like, I was like, why didn't you go after this guy as well? He was worse. And they're like, well, we didn't want to make it look like we're going after the same family twice. But he had a partner. He had a partner, whole thing, who used to get girls, organize the parties.
Them guys had commercials on the
Take pictures.
radios. I remember hearing the commercials.
Yeah, exactly. And she was a state cop. She was the person you're talking about. And I've looked at when they arrested her too. I've looked at her arrest sheet, her rap sheet, and it is completely redacted. I mean, there's no info. It's just page after page after page of just blank. And I've been trying to get the actual original unredacted report for years, but she did no time, and she's working for the post office.
Now, how the fuck? If me and this monkey got into a barroom shoving match, we can't get a job at the fucking post office. If we just shoved each other around on a drunken night.
She lost her state job and got a federal job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
Ain't that some shit?
promoted up. So I've been trying.
What
to
they say?
figure out what
What do they?
Fuck up,
What,
move
what, fuck up, move up. What I'm saying is, damn, you must know where the bodies are buried. If you lost your job and then you still fucking land on your feet with a fed job, I'm like,
how? Yeah, what do you have on who, and what's in that arrest record that got redacted to protect what you've got on who?
Because when do you ever hear about regular Joe Schmo's record being redacted?
how the fuck do you have human trafficking charges? Mickey D's won't let you touch the fucking Happy Meals. They won't let you touch the toys for the kids on the Happy Meal.
You're
How
not
the
getting
fuck?
their food. You're not getting your kids. You're not getting.
They won't let you get near the playscape, bitch.
And as a state cop,
Pimp in a Crown Vic, baby.
Yeah. And she was taking pictures of the girls and posting them online, everything else.
With the state camera.
Yeah.
With the state camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, her
And from parking the state car
Parked in the
uniform.
state car in uniform. Yes.
And her final demise was what? When they caught her on the pike and she was supposed to be out the outlets, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They had something at the outlets. They called her and she's like, yeah, I'll be there in a sec. She's over here. And it's like,
No.
here to the outlets. That's a little bit
Yeah, they got her and they got her good, but she still walked. So, I mean, if she was smart, she was collecting information the whole time on whoever, she had to collect information.
because they said she was active. Now this female we're talking about, she's state trooper. She hooked up with this dude, and she was totally, complicit. She was totally
more than complicit.
exactly.
Yeah.
She was totally involved, and the thing was, like, this chick, like I said, she worked with us, and when she went to the state police, man, they made her poster girl. They had her on the fucking billboard for recruitment on 84 and 91 for, application, fill out, join the team, and yada, yada,
Her
yada.
picture was at the gas stations. If you don't pay for your gas, we're coming.
Oh,
after
yes.
you.
They had her on that sticker, too. Yeah, they had her on that sticker. And
She made great optics, and she looked great. And I don't blame them for doing it.
She was one of 3 black females in the department at the time. She was very, like you said, easy on the eye, so they just cashed in on it.
Yeah, exactly. But then she had a side gig, and this was her sidekick.
So like I said, I had the bad blood with her, and then I remember the day it came out in the paper.
You were a little happy.
Cool breeze sent me we'll just call a friend of ours Cool Breeze, and he's probably listening. So I get a little text and I see the article, and I was like,
Yeah,
damn,
you can't make this stuff up. And that's the thing about the book. I didn't have to make anything up. Every victim that's quoted in the book, some that worked, because she was a pimp. She was a pimp too.
And that goes back to what Jimmy was asking earlier.
What do they look like?
What does a pimp look like?
Male, female,
Driving a Crown Vic in uniform.
I got one speeding ticket my entire life. I was in college working 3 jobs. I couldn't get out of that. But she walks on it.
Yeah, right, on human trafficking.
Yeah, come on. Where's the justice?
You use your white
I
privilege.
guess that shit wasn't in vogue yet. I guess some of the stuff that we help out with, we're retired. To me, still the psyche, the psychology of breaking someone down and all that deprogramming and reprogram or the mind fucking, if we want to just put it, bluntly. Why is it that we can't see that in our state of mind?
See why?
Like, I can't understand that. I know it happens. I'm not dumb to that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just when these girls fall for this, and I guess they say if you don't stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
Well, they're also young, and I don't think I'm the only one who thinks this here, but a 25-year-old today is kind of like a 17-year-old was 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
It's really easy not just to recruit them, but to groom them.
Listen, not the shit on my
Fast.
Not the shit on my kids. I got 18 and 16-year-old. I look at my 18-year-old and I look at him. I was like, shit, I was doing at your age.
Yeah, I
I
know.
was like, I'm happy you're sitting here watching freaking little Japanese cartoons here.
Anime.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I was 19, I was college in New Haven and having a great time.
Yeah.
My father was 19 years old. He was in a B-29 bombing Tokyo.
Bingo.
So there's
Generational differences.
there's really
Yeah.
generational differences. But the other thing about recruiting is if you get heroin into them, you get them addicted to that in 24 hours. Male or female,
They're
could be
never
the
saying no.
straightest guy in the world, and I've seen it happen to guys.
Game for pay.
Yeah, exactly. And they get dope in them, and that's it. They're done. You can read that's the easiest way to control them.
Now, what do you think? What do you think the numbers on that? Very low, very little bit, but it's there.
What's that?
Pimping dudes, pimping young boys.
Maybe. I mean, it's hidden a lot more, obviously, but it's
Like I've seen it a little bit like at Washington Square in New York City.
Yeah.
I've seen that,
Well, it's hard to tell. Young boys, I don't know. Males, I mean, I've heard some people say it's 50%. I've heard some people say it's 30 or 40% of the whole thing, but it's way higher than we realize.
Yeah.
And a lot, I told you about Chatterbait. That's the live interaction sex shows that you can. And I've, because thank you. Somebody just handed me a water. That's why I said thank you. We patrol that because we look for younger. We report it to the FBI because they have a system you can report. We report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But I did notice one thing and there's male performers on there too. There's you can male, female couples. So you go to the male sites and there's hundreds and hundreds of guys, but it really goes up on Sunday morning between like 8 and 1 o'clock on Sunday.
When the wife's at church?
When the wives at church.
Damn.
That's exactly. How did you think of that?
I don't know. I'm divorced. She
But-
came over from church. It was in the DVD player.
You can't walk with Jesus when you're masturbating, Ramon.
To two guys. So that's.
I was doing research. I worked at a prison.
Well, hold on. Didn't Pete Townsend get busted for that? He said he was doing research
Pete Townsend
from the Who.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
What, about 8 years ago? Yeah, about a fistful of years ago, Pete Townsend got caught all freaking dirty hard drive ton of shit. And my man said, he want to write a book. He was doing research. And obviously he never went to jail or anything. And,
Well, I actually did write a book.
that guy's got fuck you money. And, But yeah, but they caught him with a bunch. They caught him with a bunch of shit.
So is everybody, and it's absolutely everybody. And
Yeah,
married guys.
How about Epstein Island?
Oh my God. Don't even
one
start.
of-
I was writing about Epstein Island 15 years ago.
Come on.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, because the manifest of the planes. I mean, I knew Clinton was going there. I knew Trump was
Several
going there.
times.
Several times. And so that brings me to another point. And this is not covered in the book because it's a new thing since I wrote a book.
Yep.
And I've updated a few times. In the past few years, we've seen the whole thing with online and misinformation and QAnon pushing this pedophilia thing and sex trafficking thing.
They got a fucking acronym, MAP.
Yeah.
Minor attracted person, and they're pushing for that to be acceptable. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Is Manby still around?
Mambla?
Yeah, Manblood.
I don't know. But what's happened, I haven't gone to the man. That was Man Boy Love.
Man Boy Love League and shit. I remember I interviewed a guy one time, and he was trying to justify it, and he's telling me, he goes back to Greek mythology, and I'm listening to this guy. And my man hit me with the Mambla, and he's talking about, oh well, you don't understand, it's just the age thing, and I'm just like,
yeah,
okay, I've thrown up 3 times in my mouth, bro, and yeah, he hit me with that.
But what they're pushing is that there's a pizza shop in New York and there's all this online and all
That
this.
was crazy. That pizza shop.
But that's huge. I mean, the number of people who believe
They
that
want to
there's
blow that place up. Everything.
the guys are walking in with guns, but they think that every person who's not in their philosophy is a pedophile, and they've been doing that for years. I mean, they talked about Walter Mondale back in the day.
Damn, I read that.
Yeah. But they're still doing it. And I got called a few months ago. I guess it was like April or something by this woman I knew on Facebook. And she called me and said, well, and she wanted help with her friend's daughter who got mixed up in something. They wanted my advice. So I talked to her for like 10, 15 minutes reasonably. And then she said, well, you must be really happy about these arrests that are coming. I'm like, what? And she said, well, all these, and she named all these famous Hollywood people and political people. And she said, well, they're going to arrest them all because they've been taking the girls down and the kids down into the tunnels that run from London to Tel Aviv and to New York. There's all these underground tunnels, but and she just came out with this litany of conspiracies. And I'm not kidding you. She was convinced that in these tunnels, the military has these beds that can heal any disease and it's alien technology. And she was dead serious. I'm like, why did I just waste 3 freaking minutes on this woman?
Oh my
But
God.
there's so many people who believe that this is how sex trafficking works that it takes away from the fact of how it really works. And so that's been
They might have a little foundation of
truth
and then they
that it happens, and then they've just perverted it. And I know I'm using that term, but that's what they've done, and it's really taken the focus of how it really works. And I get calls all the time about people saying, these politicians and the Hollywood elite, and they're all pedophiles, and they're all running rings, and it's all secret. There's going to be these huge arrests. We've been hearing that for years, and it's I don't know what it's like an ideology. You can't knock people out of it because it's become their religion. It's become part of their personal identity that they believe this system works in the world. And I got to sit there going, well, that's really not how it works. And I'm just waiting for the day. Well, you're part of the problem, and that's what they're going to do.
Yes.
I don't care.
So now I'm the dude in the book. Yeah, what's his name? Dennis.
Dennis Paris.
Dennis. How many years did he get?
He got 30 years.
30
So
years.
He's 10 years or 14 years into it. He's almost halfway through. He's last I heard, he was in the federal prison. Where is it? Bivington?
Okay, so at least it's federal prison, so he'll do most of that.
Yeah, it was.
Otherwise,
it was
if
a
it
federal
was
cop.
You do a third if that.
he would have been out already.
Oh yeah, his brother's out already.
Yeah, it would have
His
been out.
brothers did. I don't know how long his brother did, but his brother just got state charges, and he's out already. But Dennis is.
It takes longer to type the report than the time they do.
Yeah. So Dennis will be in there a while.
Mhm.
Now, how many girls were they running?
100. There was Dennis had about 100 over time in his whole stable.
They're stable.
Yeah, and just advertising the Harvard Advocate. That was it. This just back then. That's all he needed to do. But he was trading pimps, and he needed because they work together. The ones that are really organized. This is their main gig. He bought this is the other really.
Because what I hear is they try to do always like a shift change from East Coast to West Coast. They ship them out to
They move
Vegas.
around.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so everybody has a fresh stable to say.
Exactly, and the Asian gangs do that too with the massage parlors. They move the girls around. That's if the cops close down a massage parlor, they'll just come in. So another group will come in the next day, start it up again. You can't find it. But with those guys, he bought 2 girls for $600 each in a motel in the Berlin Turnpike, and I was like $600. You know, in the colonial slave trade back in the day, before the Emancipation Proclamation, you would pay thousands of dollars in 1850 money that was the most expensive thing they owned. Their slaves were worth more than the plantation, worth more than anything they owned. So the prices dropped considerably, and these pimps will trade these girls off for a few $100 because one gets out of hand, or they're doing drugs too much, or their customers want this kind of girl now, and they did. So
That's crazy.
And it's cheap. Get back in a couple of days.
Oh my God! Yeah, just one night. Yeah, you get that back in one night. You know, and just trade them around. They're a commodity, and there's an endless flow of them because they can just go on the internet. They're constantly looking for new ones. And and then when they recruit a girl, they groom her. One of the first things they train them to do is find other girls.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's one of your ways out. Is if you get enough girls to come in, and
Or she becomes a supervisor, she gets promoted.
she becomes the bottom bitch. Exactly. Yeah, exactly it. And
It's
so, and if you're a female, you're going to trust another female who wants to take you to a party or meet this great guy. And that's what happened to Marie, who passed away in 2017. She got into a car because she needed dope, and this girl said, "Let's go to this party with this guy," and got a green Jaguar, and she was working that night. It was 4 hours from the time she met her pimp to her first trick was 4 hours. So it's almost instant. Yeah, I am not the best cocktail party person. This is what I do to people.
No,
No,
but that's
that's-
good. That's good. It's like
That's all right with us, man.
Hey, be talking politics.
I don't want to get ahead, but I got a burning question. So I guess it's kind of like a 2-pronged question, if you will.
They got medication if you're burdened, brother.
I was going to say, what's the
I don't want to violate. Don't violate your hip on my show, please.
I use the
You
bathroom.
clearly did your research. I didn't have enough time to get through all of it, but from what I read, you clearly done your research and all that stuff. It was I can only guess, in a way, validating to you. But I'm struggling for a polite way to say it, so I'm just going to say it. It's highly unattended, whatever. But what good is the book? What good is all the work it did if it doesn't get out and people aren't reading through 500 pages of the book, or even a quarter of the book? And then the other part is
You forgot.
I forgot.
Well, the first, think about it. I'll answer your first question.
All right.
It does no good at all. Nobody reads it. We don't talk about it. But that's why when somebody calls up and says, "Let's do a podcast
That's
or a
what we're
radio
doing
show,
here.
or can you do a training?" I just, and I don't work for anybody.
I know.
I'm an independent journalist. If the book doesn't sell, I don't eat. But it's just, it does no good at all. Nobody reads it. But I knew it wouldn't do any good at all if it didn't exist, so I wrote it anyway.
Mhm.
And I thought, I sacrificed a little bit, some relationships and time and being with people to write the thing because it did take a long time.
You work too much. Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear that. You know what I mean?
of course. But I was like, if I don't write it, then it's really never going to get out there.
Mhm.
So if I write it, then at least I've got it, and I can. When somebody says this doesn't happen, or they don't want me to come talk, and talk about tough, try to get into a high school when this book came out to talk to the students because they're the most vulnerable population. Nobody wanted to hear it.
Mhm.
Couple high schools said, "Okay, come on." And I was typically an older lady who'd been at the school forever, and just said, "No, this guy's coming in and talking." But I just push it as much as possible and just talk to guys.
Well, brother, you got a platform here, man. You got a home and you got a platform here.
Thank you.
Just so I'm clear,
Anytime.
I know I speak on behalf of all, but I know how much I appreciate you doing the work. Because I
No,
double didn't work myself. I've seen it. It's been upfront and real
Yeah.
personal for me. So
Thank you.
it's enormous.
Thank you for-
and
thanks for
I
saying
remember
that,
what
yeah.
the other question was.
Go ahead, brother. Go
It's
ahead.
like a
Come on, man.
progressive commercial. Why'd you back in line? I had a question.
Your
What is it? I
ambition
forgot.
was clear to get the message out there, to get people informed. I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Give them a voice. To give the victims a voice. Because
Also, who published it?
so it's a tiny little publishing company called Revenant Publishing, and
Good on them.
huh?
Good on them.
Yeah, they're trying to find but publishing's become a lot easier these days. only a few books get really marketed heavily these days.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's up to people like us to just say, hey, there's this statement out there. And one thing I wanted to do to go back to the research is every victim that's quoted in this book is called primary source. I either spoke to them myself or it's from the trial testimony. It's not second person from a
Not hearsay,
newspaper article or from another book. It was either me listening to them or it was direct from trial testimony. I needed to be that close to the reader.
Had to be authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I didn't want to go, just, this is what I heard somebody said. And that's what so many people do.
Mhm.
Oh my God, the reporting on this from local news stations, national news and media outlets is so bad and so sensationalized. I mean, I actually found one YouTube video from a local station in Seattle, and they were talking about prostitutions in Seattle, but the B-roll they were running on the report had like palm trees on it and the long license plates, and all the girls were Asian. I was like, where's your B-roll from? I actually emailed the reporter, and they said, oh, we got something off the email. That's actually from the Philippines.
Like we don't have our own.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just so bad.
It's like watching a fucking kung fu movie with French subtitles.
Yeah,
Like, that shit don't work.
It just, So that was another reason for writing too. It's just I was so sick of the bad reporting and not getting good reports.
Yeah, because I think journalism right now is having a hard enough time validating the work and impressing on people that it's authentic or that it's real. Right?
Well,
Big journalism
I think
is
journalism,
fine.
I think right now, because this world that we're in, the woke and all this trigger shit, I think the two big things that are suffering, in my opinion, are journalism and comedy.
Yeah.
Well, it's no more journalism and activism now.
No, but I'm
Well,
talking about,
yeah,
like,
I know.
and a comedy, you know what I mean? They want to shut everybody down. Don't say this, don't say that.
Mhm.
And, you guys know how I feel about that,
We
man.
need
I'm
more
just-
Joe Rogans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We need more Gilbert Godfrey's. Is what we need.
You know what I mean? God
Gilbert
bless him.
Godfrey, yeah.
And, and that's why when people like, Jimmy, why are you so hung up on the comedy thing? I said, dude, I grew up on George Carlin.
Yeah.
I grew up, one of my favorite first albums I had was Carlin and Carnegie. And, when he's just,
The seven
and-
words you can't say.
exactly.
Yeah.
And, Richard Pryor, Renaissance nigga, and,
Go
Slappy,
back before that. You go to Red Fox and
Oh my
Dolomite.
God.
Slappy White.
And
Slappy White for president is better
Mount
to run.
Raven. And I mean, some of those.
Exactly.
It was the black comedians that really broke that and put out those party records
Like-
back in the 50s. and
Like I said,
60s.
Slappy White for president is better to run with a black man than from a black man. I remember when I bought that tape, I was probably about,
Timmy, you could say Archie Bunker.
You know.
We're good with him. We're good with him.
hey, I got all the seasons of All in the Family behind there. I'm an Archie Bunker freak. But I just think, journalism and comedy, man, it's such under attack now that, it's just, they want to put these cats out of work. You can't say nothing.
Small journalism and I was like, journalism. It's still alive. They're still good. Unfortunately, you got to look for it. It's not just we're all watching the
I
same
put up
half hour of news every
I
night.
put up a quote today, basically, on what we're talking about. It was Ricky Gervais. The world began to crumble when feelings started overruling facts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that quote.
Uh-huh. Exactly, and it's ideology. I
When
mean, you
feelings started
you
overruling
can't talk
facts.
people out of what they believe if it's feelings any more than you could talk a devout Christian into becoming Muslim all of a sudden. It just can't happen. And it's the news people you listen to, whatever, if you listen to Newsmax or Fox or CNN, and if you're adhering to those stations, wherever you are, that's great. But it's become part of a person's personal identity.
Yeah.
And if you're insulting that president or you're insulting that news outlet, you're insulting that person because it's a part of who they are. And they're not going to let that
It's
go.
almost like with sports. Some people are fans, some people are fanatics.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
are taking these news
Raymond, quick question.
Fanatics.
How was when you interviewed Sellers?
Uh,
Didn't you interview Sellers?
which who's-
He's from Harvard, the activist, and he was spearheading the protest. With,
Bishop Selder.
Selder.
Bishop Selder.
Yeah. What,
He is one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter in
Mhm.
Connecticut. A fascinating guy. I've enjoyed every minute I've spent with the guy.
the guy wouldn't call me back because when he was leading the thing against Weathersfield PD for the shooting, I called that dude, man. I called that dude like he owed me money. Cat wouldn't give me the time of day because I wanted him to sit in that chair. And I honestly, these guys probably weren't going to show up that day. I wanted to go at it with him. I just didn't like what he was about and everything. I called that dude, like I said, man, That motherfucker should have put a fucking restraining order on me. He wouldn't call me back. Because every time I saw him on TV, I swear I wanted to smash him. I'm like, and he just wouldn't, I wasn't down with the agenda, and like I said, I just saw that you dealt with that. I was like, man, maybe you can liaise on this and call him up and say, hey, talk to this cat. But yeah, he wasn't, as we would say, he wasn't fucking with me. He wasn't fucking with me. He wouldn't call JG back. I'm like, all right, motherfucker.
What I learned from Bishop Selvers is, growing up in Weathersfield, white guy, the whole white privilege thing. And I asked him a question once when I first met him. I said, if I woke up tomorrow morning and I were suddenly black and I came to you, what would you tell me to do? So he's
get some Jordans?
Huh? Yeah, really. So he actually gave me a great answer. He said, go out for a week and live your life and then come back and you'll know what to ask me. He's just given me a unique perspective on his perspective. So he's been nothing but kind and gracious to me over the years. So maybe we can get him in here. It'd be great for you. I would really, because I've seen him talk to people who are vastly. I'm a friend of mine who's an ex-cop, ex-special forces down in North Carolina. And he came up here to visit one time, and this guy makes Attila the Hun look like a liberal. And I got those two guys in a room together and talking to each other, and they got along great. They listened, they spoke, they did. So it'd be interesting to get them here. Maybe we still can.
I'm always willing to talk to somebody. When that thing with Weathersfield, especially me being a use of force instructor, expert witness, I'm just like, I just didn't
talk to you.
I just didn't like that stuff.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, brother?
So
what's on the burner right now? What are we working on?
So two things I'm working on. I'm working on The Other Side of Human Trafficking, which is a book called Supply Chains, which is really exposing how there's slave labor in almost everything we buy all day long. Stuff we buy on Amazon, Walmart, doesn't matter. We're buying stuff that slaves have touched. And, whether it's the lithium and the batteries in our cell phones or the cotton shirts we're wearing, there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the supply chains because it's always about getting cheaper
sweatshops.
LeBron, you listening?
Yeah. What's that?
LeBron James, you listening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no kidding.
What did John Cusack say? Just say anything. I don't want to sell anything processed, bought, or sold. I don't want to sell anything sold or processed. No, none of you guys fucking John Cusack. Just say anything. Damn it. You guys don't remember that? So you guys better go watch Just Say Anything, man.
But so that's that. I'm doing that. Plus, some of the stuff I've done over the years is taking on Facebook, taking on Hartford Advocate, and some of the other stuff I've done, because no one else would do it. I did it. I did it by myself with no money. So I'm like, well, if I can do that, maybe I can teach other people how to do it. So I'm working on a book and a program that will teach people how to affect real change. More than just posting mad memes.
You gotta hit them in the pocket. Everything comes down to pocket,
man. That's the main lesson.
Pockets,
an individual can go after a large corporation because everything has a vulnerability. Everything has a weakness. It'll take time, but you can find it and you can wedge your way in. It just takes time and tenacity, and they'll never see it coming. So that's what I'm working on next.
That's good.
So
now, I'm assuming you probably could write another book about all the human trafficking coming across the border down south now, huh?
Oh, that's, and again, we don't know. And the one thing I always bring up to people is, there's trafficking coming up. There's a difference between trafficking and smuggling. And then my first book is called Unspeakable, which is about child trafficking. I mentioned the movie, oh God, why have I forgotten the name of it? Was it Traffic or was it Crash?
You don't watch enough movies.
Yeah, I don't watch it. I don't remember them well.
Sorry, I had to get back into it. I had to get back into it.
Ludacris was in, and Ludacris is playing like a car thief in the movie.
Crash.
Oh, that movie. That's with Sandra Bullock. Yeah, that's got the all-star. Don Cheadle's in it.
Steals this white van and brings it to a Russian guy, and
and he tells him, he says, "You ever watch the Discovery Channel when they pick up the evidence? I don't want to be that guy. Get it the fuck out of here."
Exactly. So they open the back of the van, and there's people in it
Tons.
that have been smuggled, and the Russian guy says, "Keep the van, give me that." That suddenly becomes human trafficking. So that's the difference. That's I explained it in the book. That's the difference between. So talk about not being able to tell who's coming across and what's happening with the coyotes bringing people, people paying to come across, or getting, just being left in an 18-wheeler and they're dying at 50, at 150 degree heat.
Dehydration, yeah.
But I always say to people, listen, some of these people are from Honduras, Guatemala, wherever.
Central South America.
What would it take you guys to just walk out of your house with maybe a plastic trash bag and walk to San Diego? I mean, how bad would your life have to be?
Hope that you make it,
And-
knowing all the possibilities of the tragedies and all the stuff that can happen.
And
You got the fucking coyotes, you got the elements, you got and then I guess the mean green is probably the nicest entity you're dealing with at the end. Border Patrol.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much so.
You know what I mean? They're the most humane cats at the end of your voyage if you make that whole plight.
If you make it. So I've been in refugee centers in Mexico and talked to some of these kids, some of these families, and they've told me, we're in Honduras, in Nicaragua, and if you've got a daughter who she's maybe 8 or 9 years old and they're starting to realize she's kind of attractive, you got to get out of Dodge.
You do.
You got to leave. But I talked to an 11-year-old boy, and he had left Honduras. He had walked 2,000 miles. He was in central Mexico at this refugee camp.
Can't get an American kid to walk 2 miles.
And he was going to Tijuana to send money back to his kid. He was 11, and no one could stop him. And there's nothing you can do with him. How bad does your life have to be to leave your home and walk 3,000 miles?
And I said this to my kids the other day. We were sitting there watching TV, and we were watching all the migration going on. And I told them, I said, it's got to be really bad for these people to go through all that. And you guys think you got it bad because the fucking Wi-Fi shut down? You're fucking pissed off the Wi-Fi shut down. Look at these motherfuckers. They're walking 2,000 miles.
Raymond, have you ever heard of Ed Calderon?
Yeah, I think so.
He was trained by the American Special Forces. He's from Tijuana. He was a cop down there. He works a lot with he was chasing narcos and things like that, a lot of trafficking stuff. Ed's actually a cool guy. I've taught with him. He was on the podcast. He's coming back next month, and you should come around. So Ed was on one podcast, and he was explaining to the guy because he's like, well, they're talking about. He goes, well, what do you think about guns? He goes, well, I'm going to tell you how it is in Mexico. He goes, you got a daughter. She's 14, 15, 16. She's a little looker. All of a sudden, you get a knock on the door. It's a couple of henchmen from the local fucking narco going, here, we'll be back at 8 o'clock. Here's an invite. My boss is having a party. Your daughter's going to it. Fucking done deal. Yeah. And the guy goes, that don't happen here. He goes, you guys don't understand. That's what happens. He calls Tijuana in Mexico the upside down. Yeah. He goes, that's what happens in the upside down. He goes, you just get a knock on your door with a bunch of dudes with AK-47s, like, we'll be back at 8 to pick up your daughter. How you feel about gun control now? And, just so you guys know, Ed'll be here the 25th. And that's why, he now resides in California.
Today's the 25th.
Next month. No, next month. You're fucking aloof. Look at you. But so that's why,
it's the upside down with a reference to Stranger Things. I'd rather be in the upside down than some of those places cartel run towns in Mexico. I mean, it's bad. And I don't know, narcos.
I'm from Ecuador. Now I've seen, I spent a lot of summers as a kid. When I usually go on vacation, I'm there for a month, and I've seen shit. When cats talk about, oh my God, the police here are heavy-handed. I'm like, hee. I'm like, yo, these cats are choir boys. And just seeing stuff somewhere else, and that's why I tell people, I go, dude, we ain't got it bad here. Slow down, bro.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. People still find a reason to complain.
So, got a big question for you, Raymond.
Sure.
It's a nice 1953 phone booth that I restored. Took me about 2 years, acquire parts and do it all. We call it the magic phone booth.
Okay.
If you could walk in there, pick up the phone, and talk to the 20-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them? Take a second. Take a second. You ain't gotta, What would you tell them? We'll give any advice.
I just say the most important thing you want in life is peace of mind. That's it.
At any cost.
Well, not at any cost.
Well, within reason.
Well,
he's looking at us now. I don't play like you guys. I don't know.
I mean, my twin, so that would have been 19. I mean, I might tell them to invest in Apple or invest in Amazon when it comes along. But I just say, listen, you can go after anything, but it's, people still ask me the question, what's the one thing you want? It's peace of mind. You just want to live your life so you can put your head down on your pillow at night. And,
I like that.
And feel good about yourself,
And that's the key. be able to look at yourself in the mirror, feel good by yourself.
And
That brings that
and
peace
not
of
be a
mind.
bitch for the establishment. Timmy, anything else at the wrap up, baby? You look over there very pensive, or are you constipated? I'm not sure, my brother, but talk to me,
Come on,
please.
let them hear that sexy voice again. Come on.
And those immortal words of Ice Cube. Today I didn't have to use my AK.
I like
Today's a good day.
Oh, yeah.
Ramon, anything, my brother? Let me.
Nothing, man. This is very good, very informative.
Ooh.
Like I said, this is a subject that very people hear about and discuss, but it's something that's real and it happens, and it's something that's really fucked up.
It gets more so all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's overlapping on the social media and younger people, and it's just,
And like I said, this is people don't think about that until it happened to my neighbor's daughter, it happened to my niece or
Well,
something.
nice.
Until then,
the taboo against sex work is really diminishing. Some girls are boys, they're doing it, and they're just out there with it. They don't know the dangers of it, that what could happen, but it's the taboo's gone. They don't mind doing it at all.
it's just like willingly. They just.
Yeah.
I won't tell you. Look at my DMs. No, just kidding.
Raymond, any closing statements for you, brother, before we wrap this up?
Right, I could go on and on with the.
You're coming back. Don't worry about it, man.
I will certainly come back anytime.
Thank you
want
so
me. I don't
much.
live that far away.
really-
You just have me back, and I'll bring Sandy, my German
That's
Shepherd,
so
who's
cool.
sit here next to me.
You know, so funny. Like I said earlier, she's probably just gonna lay down. I forgot she was there till you mentioned her.
The only reason I look at the rope, I go, oh shit, we got the dog here.
I
The only
forgot all
reason because
about
I saw the leash over there.
That's my protection.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me. That's my
No,
bad.
man. Thank you. You know, gracias mille. Thank you for coming up. We had a great time, man. Very informative. You know, tonight definitely wasn't, you know, something that, you know, we weren't here to freaking just laugh about like normally, but definitely crazy topic, man. It's real. Like I said, we drive down this road every day. We use its eateries. We stop at the hardware store on there, and it's just part of our Americana.
I do want to add one thing. Parents, fuck that. You pay that cell phone bill. Go through your kids' fucking social media.
They have no
See what they're
privacy.
posting.
Absolutely.
Go through it because your kid might be the victim. You don't even know it. It's happening in your house.
Yeah, happening in their house, and when you have to confront them on something, don't confront them on it. Just because they're going to try to hide it, but it will stun, surprise, shock, and scare the hell out of you when you look at what's on your kid's phone or what's on their social media. Because people are like, oh, I watch my daughter's social media account all the time.
The one you know.
That's the one you know.
The one you
don't
know.
about the 4 others because you can have 5 on your
Exactly.
phone at the same time.
My son was just telling me the other day, what the heck is it? Insta fake? Everybody has they have the little fake one where they have with your family and they post all the little fake bullshit. Huh?
Yeah,
Then they got the real one where you don't want to look at that one.
It's a wild list. It's a wild
Yeah.
list out there.
That's crazy shit.
Well, thank you guys again.
Thank
for
you
what
once
you've done
again.
and
Thank you.
everything else for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the ride with us today on Highly Unoffended. Don't forget, let me switch my camera one. Don't forget, don't be a cheap bitch. Pick up my man's book right here. Raymond Bouchard, True Story of Human Trafficking in America. Pick her up, pick her up.
Wait, have we been on camera this whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is
now
live on
he
YouTube.
tells.
This is live on YouTube.
You know? No, thank you again, people, for taking the
Don't
ride
worry,
with us.
Jimmy had the camera on himself. the whole time.
Yeah, right. Thank you guys for taking the ride with us again. Thank you again for our distinguished guest. He will be back. My closing statement tonight, once again, like always, since we went on the music tip tonight, I'm gonna go on mine. I'm gonna close it out with Elvis Costello. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Good night, America, wherever you are. Let's try to be better human beings to each other.
And don't forget to spay and neuter your fucking dogs.
Yeah,
and
but it's
cats.
just- Well, it's not. What was that? Bob Barker?
Yeah.
Bob Barker.